Hey Cowboys Nation, let's dive into the heart of the matter with no sugarcoating. This season has been a roller coaster, but when it comes to the defense, the ride has been rough, relentless, and at times downright painful to watch. The questions surrounding the Dallas Cowboys defensive unit have been mounting. And there's one name at the center of every conversation: the defensive coordinator. Fans, analysts, and even those within the organization are all trying to figure out what comes next. And the reality is that the answers are staring us in the face. This is a team with a proud history, a roster full of talent. Yet the defensive performances this season have been a constant source of frustration. Points have been given up in droves, critical moments have been lost due to blown assignments, and the pressure that should have been applied consistently has been mostly absent. It's not speculation. Every game, every play tells the story of a defense that has struggled to find consistency, identity, and execution. The numbers back it up, but even without them, the eye test is glaring. Watching opposing offenses move freely against the Cowboys has been painful, because the gaps aren't minor, they're structural. This is about more than individual mistakes. It's about leadership, preparation, and the systems in place to protect the team when the stakes are highest. Throughout the season, there has been a sense that something is missing on the defensive side of the ball. Plays break down too often, schemes fail to adjust, and the unit seems reactive instead of proactive. Fans are asking the hard questions. How long should mediocrity be tolerated? And what is the path toward real accountability? Leadership at the coordinator level shapes not only the schemes, but also the culture of the unit. When that leadership falters, the results are immediate and visible. Each game where 30 or more points are allowed, or where a critical third down is surrendered in the red zone, compounds frustration. It's easy to get lost in the minutiae of play calling or player execution, but the truth is that systemic failures tend to trace back to the coaching structure. The Cowboys are a team that has built a reputation on competitiveness and toughness, and this season, the defense has not lived up to that standard. There's no denying that the talent is present. There are players capable of making game-changing plays, but the environment, preparation, and leadership they are provided with have not allowed them to flourish consistently. That gap between potential and performance is exactly why so many eyes are on the coaching situation. The process being described by the front office has been deliberate, thorough, and methodical. Interviews are scheduled, options are being weighed, and every angle is being considered. While diligence is important in decision-making, the sense among the fan base is that the delay has gone beyond reason. Fans are watching week after week, seeing the same mistakes repeat themselves, and wondering why the obvious isn't being addressed more quickly. It's not about rushing decisions without thought, it's about matching the response to the severity of the problem. The defensive struggles are not isolated. They impact the entire team. When the unit on the other side of the ball fails, quarterbacks face more pressure, running backs carry heavier loads, and special teams are often put in positions that highlight vulnerabilities. Every part of the roster feels the ripple effect, and leadership decisions at the top dictate whether these problems are temporary setbacks or persistent obstacles. The stakes are enormous, and the fans are demanding that the organization rise to meet them with decisiveness. When examining the details of the defensive performance this season, the picture becomes even more stark. Third down efficiency, red zone stops, pressure rates, every advanced metric tells the same story. Opponents have consistently exploited mismatches, attacked weaknesses, and moved the ball with alarming consistency. The role of the defensive coordinator in this scenario cannot be overstated. Leadership at this level directs scheme adjustments, prepares players to react in critical situations, and shapes the overall approach to each opponent. When those elements consistently fail, the responsibility falls squarely on those guiding the unit. Fans have expressed frustration openly. Commentators have questioned strategies, and the results themselves leave little room for debate. Maintaining the same coordinator under these circumstances risks not only continued underperformance, but also further erosion of confidence both within the locker room and among the fan base. Leadership matters, and in football, it is often the difference between a team that struggles and a team that competes consistently at the highest level. Beyond statistics, there is also the psychological and cultural dimension to consider. Confidence, cohesion, and clarity of purpose all hinge on leadership. Players need to trust the schemes they are asked to execute, to believe in the adjustments being made in real time, and to understand that accountability is applied fairly and consistently. When the defense falters repeatedly, It chips away at that trust and undermines cohesion. On the other hand, decisive leadership can reinvigorate a unit, provide clarity, and create a renewed focus on fundamentals and discipline. Bringing in fresh perspectives or reinforcing core principles can ignite a turnaround almost immediately. Conversely, hesitation risks perpetuating uncertainty, confusion, and a lack of belief in the system. Fans, analysts, and internal voices alike recognize the potential for transformation if bold moves are made. But the window for action is narrow and the pressure to respond is real. Every game this season has highlighted the same concerns: breakdowns in coverage, missed assignments, and slow adjustments have allowed opponents to dictate the pace and control the outcomes of games. The defensive struggles are not a series of unfortunate coincidences. They are the cumulative effect of decisions and leadership. The question now becomes how quickly the Cowboys will act to address these systemic issues. The organization has a chance to assert a culture of accountability, demonstrate a commitment to excellence, and ensure that leadership aligns with the team's goals. Delay, in this context, is not a neutral act. It sends a message to players, fans, and the league that underperformance might be tolerated. Acting decisively, however, signals that the team is serious about improvement, about reclaiming its competitive edge, and about setting a standard that matches the expectations of America's team. The choices made in the coming days will reverberate across every facet of the organization, from morale to strategy to player development. At the center of this discussion is more than just a single coaching position. It is about defining the identity of the team moving forward. It is about signaling that mediocrity is unacceptable and that leadership is accountable. The performance metrics, the repeated breakdowns, and the overall defensive inefficiencies all point to a need for change. Fans are aware of it. Players feel it. And the organization cannot ignore it without consequence. The decisions made regarding defensive leadership will set a precedent for how success is pursued, how standards are enforced, and how accountability is demonstrated. In professional football, these choices extend beyond the X's and O's. They shape culture, influence confidence, and define the trajectory of the franchise. The Cowboys are at a critical juncture, and the next steps taken will either reinforce a commitment to excellence or signal a tolerance for repeated failure. Looking ahead, the spotlight is squarely on how the Dallas Cowboys will respond to this defensive crisis and what it will mean for the team's identity moving forward. The defense has been a glaring weak point all season, and the consequences have rippled across every facet of the roster. The offense, no matter how talented or efficient, cannot fully compensate when the other side of the ball repeatedly gives up critical plays. Quarterbacks are forced into uncomfortable situations, taking risks they otherwise would not face, while running backs bear heavier workloads in an attempt to control the clock and keep the defense off the field. Even special teams, which often operate on the margins of game outcomes, have found themselves repeatedly exposed because the defensive unit has failed to provide support. Football is inherently a team sport, yet leadership at the top determines how prepared the unit is to handle pressure, make adjustments, and maintain discipline. When defensive leadership falters, mistakes compound, and the cracks in strategy become impossible to hide. Fans have watched in disbelief as repeated breakdowns occurred, not as isolated incidents, but as recurring patterns. Big plays surrendered in pivotal moments, miscommunication across the field, missed tackles at crucial junctures. These are symptoms of a system that has failed to adapt, to correct itself, and to enforce accountability when it matters most. While individual performances can be criticized, the truth is that coaching directly shapes preparation, execution, and the mental readiness of players. When those elements fail, it is the leadership guiding them that bears the ultimate responsibility. The urgency surrounding a leadership decision cannot be overstated. Every day that passes without clarity allows frustration to fester among fans who have invested deeply in this team emotionally, financially, and in terms of time. The off-season window in the NFL is finite, and delays in making key personnel decisions can cascade into lost opportunities in the draft, free agency, and roster planning. A defensive coordinator's philosophy impacts more than just play calling. It influences which players are targeted, which schemes are prioritized, and how the team will be positioned to compete next season. Uncertainty in leadership limits the organization's ability to make strategic moves, and it leaves players without the guidance they need to prepare effectively. Fans, analysts, and internal stakeholders alike understand that prompt and decisive action is not about impulsivity. It is about aligning leadership with the realities of performance. when a system has repeatedly failed. Waiting in the name of process risks allowing the issues to become entrenched, making them harder to fix later. Timing, clarity, and accountability are all critical to reversing the downward trajectory of a unit that has underperformed far below expectations. At the same time, the cultural and psychological ramifications of a leadership change are immense. Players are attuned to signals from the top, and clarity in coaching can reinvigorate confidence, foster cohesion, and emphasize accountability in ways that resonate immediately on the field. The right leadership can inspire a renewed commitment to fundamentals, sharpen focus, and instill a sense of urgency and pride. Conversely, hesitation or prolonged indecision can undermine morale, allowing doubt to creep into player performance and decision-making. Football is a game of inches, both literally and metaphorically, and confidence is as vital as any playbook. The Cowboys have a unique opportunity to reset expectations, reinforce standards, and demonstrate to both players and fans that performance, preparation, and accountability are non-negotiable. Each practice, meeting, and in-game adjustment can take on new meaning when leadership is decisive and aligned with organizational goals. This is the kind of environment that fosters growth, improvement, and sustainable competitiveness over the long term, and it underscores why swift action is so critical. Strategically, the implications of a defensive coordinator decision extend well beyond the current season. Draft planning, free agent acquisitions, and overall roster construction are all shaped by the schemes and philosophies a coordinator brings to the table. Every signing, every pick, and every development decision is tied to the leadership guiding the defensive approach. A prolonged period of uncertainty prevents the organization from fully capitalizing on opportunities to acquire the right personnel, adjust the system to maximize player strengths, and implement schemes designed for immediate and sustained effectiveness. The clock is ticking, and decisions made now will reverberate for years, affecting not just short-term results, but long-term competitiveness. Fans expect to see proactive leadership that blends strategic foresight with accountability, and the window for demonstrating that approach is narrow. Every day without decisive action makes it more difficult to lay a foundation for consistent success, and sends a message that underperformance may be tolerated, which can have far-reaching consequences throughout the organization. Before we roll on, subscribe to Cowboys Wire News, drop a like, and turn on the bell. Your support keeps the Dallas Cowboys updates coming. Tell us what you think in the comments. A storm is quietly forming around the Dallas Cowboys, and at its center is one of the franchise's brightest stars. League insiders are whispering that wide receiver CeeDee Lamb has delivered a blunt message to the organization, one that could shake the locker room and redefine the team's future. According to sources close to the situation, Lamb has made it clear that the arrival of a certain unnamed figure would force him to reconsider his place in Dallas. The alleged ultimatum is simple and dramatic. If he comes, Lamb is gone. The identity of he remains the subject of intense speculation. Some believe it points to a high-profile player rumored to be on the Cowboys' radar, a move that could disrupt the offensive hierarchy and threaten Lamb's role as the undisputed focal point. Others suggest it could involve a powerful voice in the coaching staff or front office, someone whose philosophy clashes with Lamb's vision of his career and the team's direction. What fuels the intrigue is the timing. As Dallas navigates a delicate balance between chasing immediate success and preserving long-term stability, Lamb's rise has been symbolic of the Cowboys' modern identity: explosive, confident, and unapologetically ambitious. An ultimatum of this magnitude, even as a rumor, highlights the growing influence of star players in shaping organizational decisions. It also exposes potential fault lines within a franchise that prides itself on unity and tradition. If the whispers are true, the Cowboys could soon face an uncomfortable choice between betting on a future built around Lamb or rolling the dice on a controversial addition. For now, the silence from both Lamb and the Cowboys only amplifies the drama. Fans are left parsing every comment, every move, and every leak, wondering whether this is merely off-season smoke or the first crack in a relationship that once seemed unbreakable. In Dallas, rumors have a way of becoming reality, and this one carries the weight of a franchise-defining moment. That's a wrap from Cowboys Wire News. For breaking Cowboys updates, subscribe, drop a like, and turn on the bell. Tell us your take in the comments.